who's controlling the center, and then who's actually taking risk and attacking. Attack. Got Sammy out there. So again, just a good example of you can call the same guy 2 in a row. That's not a problem. And again, overseas, that's what you're going to see, honestly. The 1 point to red, right? Regardless of if blue doesn't score, red's going to get a point. Period. Okay, so why did we show you that whole sequence? Well, because that's exactly what we're talking about, right? If you look at that whole thing and you had to evaluate who's being active, red's being active. Throughout that entire time, red's being active. But red never scores any points. So Sammy did exactly what he should do, which is he warned blue. Blue still passive, red was still active. So he put blue on the activity time. He let the activity time expire. He gave red his point. But what did I say? I said this earlier. You're going to get a warning, right? You're going to get a warning if you don't score points in the first period. That's going to happen. Did red remain active? Yeah. I mean, if I'm being honest, red remained active, but he didn't score points. So just know that's part of our protocol, right? That's part of our formula, okay? And that's just a great example of that's exactly what you can expect to see. That's textbook, how it's going to be called, okay? All right. All right. Again, here for you freestyle guys, this is the secret sauce, right? This is our formula. And this is what we're going to follow every single time. You just saw a great example of that for the first period. You know, I'm sure coming back in the second period, Sammy might have went back, and who knows how the bout went, right? He might have went right back after blue again. He can do that. And he can make it 2-0, and then he could put red on the end of the clock and make it 2-1. Like you can go that direction. The bout dictates, okay?
For everybody in the audience, both coaches and referees, okay, understanding the passivity philosophy, and more importantly, understanding the timing of passivity. When you're sitting in the corner coaching your athlete, you can look at the clock, you can listen to what we're saying. Like Nick said, blue action, blue action, blue action. You can look at the clock and go, okay, they're getting close to their timing mark for a passivity call. That can help you tactically in the corner, coaching your athlete to prevent, if you will, us locking into your wrestler and getting the call against your wrestler, a passivity call. So what Nick has provided you guys here is understanding the philosophy, and understanding the timing that can really help you tactically in the corner, coach your wrestler so you know what's going on. It's not a mystery of what we're doing because we're telling you exactly what we're doing. We're telling you exactly who we're calling, we're going after. So we're giving you everything, putting it in your toolkit to help you in the corner to coach your athlete. So this is very important to help. We felt it was important to help demystify what we're doing because we do get a lot of fussing from the corner. How can you do this? Why are you doing this? But if you understand our philosophy, you understand the formula we're working with, and you understand the timing gates we're going through, and I'm talking 0-0 bout here, you understand those things, that can help you be a more effective, I think it'll help you be more effective in the corner working with your athlete. Nick, thank you. I'm out.
Tim, I'm glad you stopped because I spent a lot of time talking about Greco and the timing, and I kind of just went quickly past this. And I actually do want to go into some more details. So timing wise, the first call in freestyle, and again, if you go back and watch that video of how Sammy did it, that it's a great example of if you're calling the same guy 2 in a row. But I'm going to make my first call around 30 seconds. I'm really starting to like, okay, who am I looking at? I'm going to start talking to him. And I'm going to make that first warning 45 seconds, 50 seconds elapsed into the bout. And I restart him. And again, I'm just evaluating whether it goes back the other direction, which again, for me, I really am looking. If all things are equal and they're neither one's being that aggressive and they're still filling each other out, I probably will go back the other direction. If one guy, as in the video where Sammy was reffing, one guy was clearly the aggressor and creating all the activity, that makes it easy. Then you just go right back after the other guy, right? So, but I'm going to make that second call, another 45 seconds to a minute elapsed, okay? And what you have to understand is the rules dictate, right? We have to have somebody put on activity time with 1 minute remaining. Like, and for those of you who don't know that, right, with 1 minute remaining in the first period, if somebody's not on the activity time, we have to stop the bout and just pick somebody. So that makes us look silly. We don't ever want to be in a situation where we just have to stop the bout and pick somebody. We want to set up our calls. We want everybody to know. We want to communicate to the world what we're seeing, right? So we will have, if we're doing our job, we will have structured our calls so that everybody can see what's coming, and we won't ever really get to that 1 minute mark. We start sweating when we get down to that minute mark and we haven't put somebody on activity time, right? So we're going to make that, if we've warned both guys, then we're going to make that third call, with anywhere from 130 elapsed down to like 110, right? Like anything under 110, we're not trying to mess with that, right? So because if guys get into a scramble and they flurry all over the place, that puts us in a jam, right? So we're going to make that third call, because then with again, anywhere from 130 to 110 left on the clock, and then 30 seconds at that point now is going to be eaten up by the activity time itself, right? So just understand that there's really no call for us to make during that time unless somebody is just straight fleeing, which can happen, but it's rare. Okay? So that puts us now into the second period. Again, similar to what I said with Greco, that next call in the second period is coming quicker. It's coming quicker. It's coming probably 30 to 40 seconds into that next period, which is going to immediately trigger an activity time, right? Because if I got 3 calls in the first, that means both guys have had their warning. So when I stop the bout for a passivity call in the second period, 30 to 40 seconds in, we go immediately into activity time. That's another 30 seconds that gets eaten up, right? This is what we're talking about when we talk about controlling the clock, structuring your calls, and understanding the total bout, right? Because that next 30 seconds is going to be eaten up just with the activity time. So now we've got anywhere from like 130 to 150 left on the clock. And now if it's 1-to-1, again, this is part of that secret sauce, the formula that we follow. We don't want it to end 1-to-1. We want the bout to end 2-to-1, because everybody in the world knows that 2 beats 1. Everybody knows that, right? When it ends 1-1, well, who has criteria and what happened there? 2-to-1 is what we're looking for. So when we have had that second activity time, now we're starting to evaluate. This is that total bout concept. Okay, who has been the aggressive wrestler? Who has been the active wrestler? Who's been trying to make things happen throughout this bout? And once I've considered that, I've got another 30 seconds to kind of be making up my mind on that. And I'll start talking. And it might be the situation where red's winning 1-1 and I'm still going to call blue, unlike what I said in Greco, right? I may call blue even when he's losing because I wanted to end 2-1. Or I may consider the whole bout and say, you know what? Blue's been aggressive. Blue's been the more active wrestler, and I may call red and it may flip it. In any case, I want to put somebody on the activity time, have that activity time expire, put the point on the board to make it 2-1. I want all that to happen and have a minimum of 45 seconds left on the clock. And it's, again, that same piece I talked about where everybody knows 2 beats 1, everybody knows who's winning, and now the athletes can go figure it out. I do not want activity time to expire and there be 15 seconds left on the clock when it becomes 2-1. That is not a good situation, right? So again, we are trying to structure our calls such that we have made all 5 of those calls, right? 3 in the first, 2 in the second, given the activity time to expire. That's a minute and a half of activity time, right? That's 3 different activity times. So that's a minute and a half of your bout that's been eaten up just by activity time. We need all that to happen and still have anywhere from 45 seconds to 1 minute. For me personally, ideally, I want 1 minute on the clock when it's 2-1. Like that's what I want, because then nobody can say like, hey, you determined the outcome. No, I didn't. It was 2-1 and they had a minute where they could have figured it out, right? They had a minute to get after it and scrap and somebody score some points, right? So that's, for me, that's always my goal. If I have to get in that kind of, the nice part is eventually somebody usually scores, but there have been plenty of times where it's gone down to that. And my goal is, hey, it's 2-1 with a minute left. You guys go figure it out now, right? Yeah. Tim, anything else on that? Okay. All right. So let's look at some passivity in freestyle. Hooks matter in freestyle too. Okay, so you can see, like, and this is kind of what I'm talking about too. Internationally, they tend to let it go longer. Like it's a minute in, and she hasn't given a warning for passivity yet. Which I can tell you this: she's going to give a warning pretty soon here to blue. There ain't no way she's going to give a warning to red before she puts somebody on activity time, right? So they let more time elapse to give that warning, which almost kind of locks you into, you got to call the same person. All right. Back by red. Okay, not as clear on that one, but red took an attack. Everything blue was doing was really defensive, and kind of had a wrist. She'd break contact. Not as clear cut. Like for me, you could have gone red, but red took the risk. And even when red was underneath, like in that front headlock, she was moving forward, trying to drag, trying to attack. Blue wasn't doing much to like actually initiate any kind of scoring action. So, but again, that's where we try and again evaluate activity more than we're trying to evaluate passivity. All right. This is not me on the mat, but circa 2007 at the US Open 5th place match, I did something stupid like this. This is and let me pause for a minute because we didn't talk about this as much as maybe we should have. So see how it says total 23 total points scored. So the tool passivity is a tool to stimulate action to get points on the board. That's what passivity is intended to do. If you have points on the board, you no longer need that tool, right? So what kind of points are we talking about? Well, generally, as a general rule of thumb, right? 5 to 6 cumulative points, I'm not calling passivity anymore, like especially in Greco, like no way. And again, though, we talked early on about how those points are scored. If I get an ordered parterre and 3 gut wrenches, that's 7 cumulative points. So you might say, Nick, you got 7 cumulative points. Why would you call passivity? Those are not the same kind of points, right? That's an ordered parterre and 3 turns from an ordered parterre. Not the same kind of points. I have no problem calling passivity in that situation because the passivity call is what generated those points, right? So, but if the athletes score technical points on their own, 5 or 6 points, yeah, passivity is probably not coming into play anymore. Unless, like I said, there's exceptions to everything. Like that situation where I said, hey, we had 5 points in the first 5 seconds of the bout, and now they want to stand around. Yeah. And the other thing, and Zach Eric told me this years ago, a passivity warning in freestyle, way different than putting somebody on activity time, right? That's a tool that I have at my disposal anytime because it doesn't result in anything except me talking to the athletes, right? So that's a little bit different. Once I've given that warning, though, then me actually making a passivity call that would result in activity time, that carries more weight. I'm going to consider, again, points on the board, technical points, how are they scored? Giving a warning, I can do that anytime as a way of just kind of breaking up the match and, again, stimulating action. I can also just blow my whistle and talk to the athletes and do it that way. So, again, each bout dictates the situation. So, but yeah, in this situation, it's 9 to 8 right now. At that point, there would be no reason to call anybody for passivity, right? Just get out of their way. They've demonstrated that they will score points. They're doing their job, right? As referees, this is where we need to exercise some patience and just get out of their way and let them do their job, right? That's not what happens here, by the way. So again, if it was 0-0 and you saw some of these positions, you might say, hey, that's passivity. It's not 0-0. You've got great actions like that. And presumably you've had plenty of actions like that. Again, more points. So it was already, there were 17 points before all this. Okay. So they just called a guy for passivity who has scored 13 technical points, who just scored what, Tim?
Blue just scored a 5-point throw
Yeah.
and got called with passivity.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How?
It's not good. You know, if you're a coach in the corner and you come on unglued on this team, like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. This is a bad deal. So they put him down, and he doesn't get turned, but so what? Like, it's, again, there's no reason. You're killing time here. They were scoring on their feet. I don't think he gets there. So they return to standing. You remember how this match ends, Robbie?
Yes, I do.
.4 points. So here's the thing. When they're scoring points, there's just zero need for the officiating team to get involved like that. They're scoring points. They're going to continue to score points. And I could go many different directions on like how that impacted the bout. But the bottom line is, again, philosophically, when you've got points on the board, get out of the way and let the wrestler score points. All right. So, all right. This one's brutal. And there's just nothing you can do about this. You guys hear it? Can you guys get sound on your end when I play that? Oh, damn. All right, well, I'll replay it for you. Guy blew his whistle right in the middle of that action. And so by rule, a whistle stops everything. No points. So he got a passivity call, but that looks a hell of a lot better than a passivity call, right? And I've been guilty of this as referees, for all the referees on here. When you make a passivity call and you hold it out and you're looking for confirmation, as you bring your hand up, always, always, always have your eyes directly on the athletes before you blow your whistle. And that's one of those mechanics that sometimes we take for granted because we've done it so much. And, 999 times out of a million, I just simply blow my whistle. But that one time where I don't come back and keep my eyes, something like this happens, and it's, as they say in Europe, catastrophe, right? It's not good. So always, always have your eyes on the action before you blow your whistle. And I did it at a World Team Trials. My first one, I was a little bit nervous, and I just real slight, but senior level athletes move quickly. They move quickly. And think about this. They're doing what you asked them to do. You're saying things like action and attack. So imagine their frustration when they do exactly what you asked them to do, and then you take it away from them by blowing your whistle, right? So just keep that in mind. A little bit of patience, a little pause, right? The passivity call is not going away. And it'll always be there, but this is better, right? Points are better. All right. Negative wrestling holds actions or behaviors against the rules of wrestling and fair play. So there's 3 approaches to negative wrestling. First one is an attention, right? Just a firm warning. Hey, don't do that again. Next time it's a caution. Tim?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so your next tier is a caution with points. And again, you can go directly to that based on the severity of what the infraction is, right? And then the third tier is you can choose to call it brutality and remove the athlete from the competition. Tim, do we still have the ability to say we're removing them from the match, but not the competition?
Correct. Yes.
So it's kind of on that third one, you have two levels where you can say, hey, they're out of this match, but they can continue the competition, or no, they're completely out of the competition.
But the team has to be unanimous.
Yep. So all three members of the officiating team have to agree on a call like brutality, right?
Yes. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention on this, Nick, if I can interject,
Sure.
Folk style, I know in folk style, it's very black and white. You have to do this and make this call. In international styles wrestling, we have options. And Nick has just addressed the three options. A few years ago, I had two girls at a tournament, and one got a good club on the head, and then the other girl turned around and got a second club on the head and stopped the bout, brought them over and said, here's the deal, ladies, knock it off or you're out of here. They went back out and they performed famously. They had a great match. Now, the coach was not happy, and he came to me and said, I have to throw them out. I don't. I can attention, I can caution, or we can get into brutality. It gives us levels, degrees of action we can take as referees to mitigate any further aggressions or transgressions, if you will. So understand there are different options for us as referees when we get into the situation. It's not one size fit all for every situation. So understand that as you proceed into the tournaments, upcoming tournaments.
And just one other kind of note on that, for, again, as Americans, we kind of have that folk style foundation. So a lot of our biases come from that. One of the things that happens frequently is somebody does something illegal, and it's clearly illegal, and the officiating team calls it illegal. And then the wrestler can't continue or chooses not to continue. And they have coaches saying, well, my wrestler wins, my athlete wins, right? Again, that's a folk style rule, right? Somebody gets hurt on something illegal and they can't continue. That's an NFHS folk style rule, but that doesn't exist in the international styles. For your athlete to win on something like that, again, it has to be deemed brutality. It has to be unanimous among the officiating team. And frankly, if something like that happens, they're probably going to call the head official over and say, hey, this is where we're at, and make sure everybody has an understanding of what went down.
Now, understand also that red cards are not just for coaches. If we get into a brutality situation where a wrestler hurts another wrestler through brutality, that wrestler can receive a red card and be removed, disqualified from competition. So red cards are not just for coaches.
Right. Okay. You can see Tim highlighted here. Don't panic if we tell both wrestlers to stay off the fingers. It's something we battle, right? They're drawn to each other's fingers. And sometimes it's really hard to tell who's doing it. And then they will both try and simulate that the other one's doing it, even though they're the ones. So it's tough, and we are going to be firm about it, but just understand we may blow our whistle and just talk to both of them. And here's an example of that. And when things are obvious, it's easy to make those calls. Those are tough situations though, right? And so we don't want to make a call it's a 2-2 match. You think any of us wants to make a fingers call to determine the winner of that match? We don't. But we also, it's our job to enforce fair play, right? So we're going to stop that situation. We're going to bark at you about fingers, right? All right. This is a good, I actually wrote this in my notes, and then Tim and I thought exactly like, before I read what Tim wrote, I had already written down like, hey, if you get an attention for something, just understand we're telling you to stop doing that. If you come right back and do it, you're going to get cautioned. Like, maybe you do it a minute down the road, but if I blow my whistle and you do exactly what I told you not to do, you're going to get cautioned for it. I won't name names. We were at the Final X last year, and the referee, it was a Greco match, and and the wrestler did one of these where they had the head encircled with two hands. And a lot of times, like, hey, we just say, hey, don't do that. And we just kind of move on. The referee said, hey, gave it attention, said, don't do that. Literally blew a whistle, guy went right back to it. Boom, caution 2. Like, if if it's me or you, I'm going to win that situation. That's just being fair with you guys, right? So let your athletes know, if you get attention for something, don't come right back and do that. Okay. All right. Oops. See if I get that one to play. I had a hard time earlier getting this one to play. So, correct call, poor mechanics. We'll talk about this later. You don't ever want to be chasing athletes around on the mat when they're on their feet, holding up a caution of 1, right? When an athlete commits a foul on their feet, you blow your whistle and you hold out the caution of 1, letting everybody know you saw a foul. And this really plays a role when we're talking about fleeing the hold late in the match, because the time is ticking down. Again, if you have a foul on your feet, get the clock stopped, call your call. They may white paddle around you, but you want to get that clock stopped and let everybody know, hey, I'm making a call right here for a foul. Okay. So again, he told Blue stay out the fingers. She went right back to it. He should have blown his whistle directly, caution of 1, probably would have got it confirmed. So good call, but poor mechanics on that one. All right. Okay, grabbing fingers and attempting to pull them apart. Okay, this is a big one again for people who have that folk style foundation. And I'll again admit I've made this mistake before, because somebody had to correct me and say, hey, Nick, that's a caution. Anytime we stand up and peel the fingers, a folk style thing, that's a foul in the international styles, freestyle or Greco. Okay. So this one's interesting because he ends up going out of bounds. So as the referee, I think the referee does the right thing, because Blue hasn't fully escaped this, right? Has not peeled the fingers completely and turned and faced. If he had, you'd blow your whistle, caution Blue, 1 red. But red can still score from here potentially, right? And in fact, red does, because they're standing. Maybe red went out. I guess red doesn't score, but because they're standing, had Blue went out of bounds, now you get 1 for a step out, and then you have the caution 1 for the peeling, right? You could even call that a flea because their butt is turned towards the center going out, right? So you've got, Robbie's holding up. I don't know about double jeopardy on that one. I don't know if I'd call 2 different fouls on that one, because I'm holding my whistle to see if red can get something big. Can red get 4, right? Because they're still standing. So that's why I'm holding my whistle. Otherwise, it's a direct caution 1 for the peeling, right? So yeah, I wouldn't call peeling and flea. It's one or the other. Yeah. But I could give the step out and the caution of 1 for the peel, right? All right. Oops. See, I get this one to play. There we go. So she doesn't even try and hide it. She grabs the fingers and peels them backwards. And so that's the difference. It's not just holding. It's that when she grabs them, she wrenches them backwards against. That's a direct foul. In case you want to see it one more time. Again, it's not just the grabbing, but how she wrenches them back. That's a foul. Yeah. All right. Blocking with 1 arm or 2 hands. So avoiding contact by blocking with an arm. How are we doing on time, Tim? I don't know if I want to go through every single one of these.
We got 30 minutes left, Nick.
Okay. So for me, you could give an attention for this, and if she does it again, you go to negative wrestling or fleeing. Versus a hand to the face. Do we have the hand to the face? Here we go. That's the one I was looking for. So first time, giving attention. Okay, we'll get some scoring. Okay, right back to it. I think it's a good call. He gave him a warning and he went right back to it. As a referee, I'm for sure going to ask for that. They white paddle me, but you already gave him a warning. It's kind of what I talked about. I gave you a warning, you went right back and did it again. You can expect a caution. And senior level athletes, they will test that stuff, right? They'll put it out there. You're really gonna call me? And so for me, the answer is yes. You're gonna test me on that. The answer is gonna be yeah, I'm gonna call you. This one. So this, you'll see direct. That's a direct foul, right? You see Casey's on the whistle there. There's no warning. There's no attention. If you put two hands to the face, that's immediate foul, okay? Directly. Okay, we talked about that one. This one's a little bit more nuanced. You see it? So again, not a direct foul for negative wrestling, but an attention, right? Because there's nothing, nobody's going to score anything from there, neither guy. It's completely blocking any kind of active wrestling from happening. So again, that would be an attention. Okay, let's see here. Just going over some different fouls. Okay, so that's a caution blue, one red. And again, the difference here is nuanced. Both of these are singlet grabs. So he grabs it, and now he uses it offensively. And he scored. So what you do is you say, hey, attention blue, don't grab the singlet, but he doesn't get any points for anything that occurred. Over here, you might say, well, he was attacking too, but if you look, red's trying to grab the ankle and trying to spin behind, and blue's got a hold of the singlet. So you can see red's hand is actually down on the ankle. Oops. Right where I paused it. So that'd be considered a defensive foul. Caution, 1. So that's the difference. 1, you take the scoring away from blue over here, whereas over here, it's an actual caution and points. Okay. Unsporting behavior must stop immediately. If not, the situation will escalate. And again, I've had to learn this over years. I will say, like, American wrestling, folk style wrestling, people bang, right? People club hard. And then when I talk to international referees, they're like, why do you guys let that stuff happen? Because internationally, that stuff, it escalates. It's like from the Anchorman, man, that really escalated quickly, right? Like, that's what happens. If you don't get a hold of that stuff, particularly at the senior level, it will get out of control almost immediately. Again, these 3 options, which we kind of talked about before, you can give an attention, right? That's again, that club to the back of the head. That's an easy one. Blow my whistle. Listen, hey, knock that off. Don't do that. That's your first attention, right? They come back and do it again, I'm going direct caution. It's that same philosophy I said. If I just told you to stop something and you come right back and do it, you're going to get a caution. You can go directly caution to points. Those are things like headbutts, right? Somebody headbutts somebody, I'm blowing my whistle, give them a caution to points right away. And then the third one, disqualification. These are things that are brutality, of that nature. All right. And again, Tim alluded to this earlier. This is counterintuitive from folk style. That idea of, yeah, they did something illegal. Yes, the team called it, but that doesn't mean somebody's automatically out of the tournament and things of that nature, right? All right. These are hard to find sometimes. But in girls' matches, this is always what I'm looking for the most, honestly, in terms of unsporting behavior, is the hair pull. Right there. So she's got a big chunk of it right there. So that should have been stopped. And then your discretion, either attention or direct caution. Maybe for me, direct caution because she was under attack. And then this one, if you've seen this one, you might not want. If you're averse to joints going the wrong way, don't watch. And kind of see what's going to happen. So that's direct. That's a red card. Okay, out of the tournament. Okay. Okay, so two different acts of brutality. One results in caution and points. One results in red card disqualification. Both brutality, but different levels of brutality. Okay. So for me, attention. Knock that stuff off. Like that's not a direct caution. That's just a, hey, knock it off. So yeah, this is a red card. Now what happened real quick, there was a headbutt in there. I'm not so sure Kamal's not the one who headbutted him, but there was a headbutt and then he took offense to it and it escalated from there. So. All right. Fleeing the mat. Here you go, Robbie. I too, much like Tim, had been thinking about what you were talking about and thought, hey, we'll have some time. I didn't realize it was at the end of this slideshow. So when I saw it today, I'm like, oh, good. We're going to get to address Robbie's questions. So this is from the feet. This is, can always tell by the guy moving backwards and what he does with his feet makes this call pretty easy for me. So I stand straight up and just kind of walks right out. Like there's no attempt to stay in bounds. He was already moving backwards. And then when he gets to the zone, he's like, yeah, well, I'm winning. I'll just walk straight out. That's an easy flea call, right? There was no real attempt to stay in, and he knows it. And we'll talk about that, Robbie. That's tactically, I think he was okay with that. Yep, I'll go ahead and give up a flea. Especially back then, it was just the caution one. Now it would be one and caution one. So that might change how he approaches that tactically. But at the time, yeah, sure, I don't care. I'll give up the flea. Okay. Oops. And again, that is part of tactics, right? Sometimes giving up a flea makes a lot more sense than giving up a lift or giving up a 4-point action. Whoop. Yeah, let me get my foot out. So just trying to drag him back in. Referee did a good job of holding the whistle. This is again what I tell young officials, like, hey, hold your whistle. That point is always going to be there. Okay. So you got 1 point red, but maybe red can get something else. Pretty difficult when he's literally having to drag the guy back in. But so both fleeing the mat from your feet. Here's some fleeing from parterre. They start in the center of the mat. All right, they were nowhere near the zone. And now how did they get to the zone? That's not just good defense. I decided my best way out of this lock is to get out of bounds. So in Greco in general, crawling forward is a foul. Like if we tell you place, even if you don't go out of bounds, just by virtue of crawling in a straight line forward, you could be called for fleeing the hold. And obviously, again, he doesn't make any turns at any point. He just continues in a straight line from the center of the mat all the way out of bounds. And then any foul committed while in danger results in a caution in 2, and that's freestyle or Greco. And so in this situation, he's in danger and he flees the mat in danger. Like, yeah, let me get out of bounds. Again, versus being pinned, that's probably tactically the right decision. Just know it's a caution in 2 for doing it. So last 30 seconds of the bout. I'll get through this slide and then we'll talk a little bit more about your fleeing question, obviously. So last 30 seconds of the bout. I talked about this already. Any foul that happens in standing, we need to stop the match to make that call. If it's a fleeing the hold call in the last 30 seconds, so again, this is good for coaches to know. If it's between 30 seconds and 15 seconds, I'm going to stop the match and I'm going to give a warning if we're talking about fleeing the hold. So I'm going to get in Blue's face, say, hey, Blue, you're fleeing the hold. You got to stay in there. Okay. But if it's under 15 seconds, I now have it's within my purview to go directly to a fleeing the hold. Now, it can get gray, right? Again, Gary talked about those areas of gray. If it's like 14 seconds, I'm probably not going directly to a fleeing the hold call, but the rules allow me to. If I can, I'll stop that and say, hey, Blue, stay in there. But again, once you get down under 12, under 10, and somebody chooses to flee, there's not going to be a warning for that. It's going to go directly to fleeing the hold. However, if that changes the winner of the match, a couple of things. One, I'm going to blow my whistle. So again, referees out there, blow your whistle to make that call because you get the clock stopped. Anybody who watched 2016 Olympics bronze medal match with the Mongolian knows the worst thing you could possibly do is change the winner with 0 time on the clock. That's an absolute no-no. So blow the whistle, get the clock stopped, and make your call. Let the officiating team confirm it or not. The other piece to that, and Tim, I wanted to talk to you about this because I know we changed something in the U.S. rules. Internationally, for that call to be upheld, all 3 officials have to agree. So if I make a fleeing the hold call and it changes the winner, your referee, your judge, and your mat chairman, all 3 have to confirm that call.
Correct.
Now, I thought, Tim, nationally, we changed that. Am I wrong on that? Because coaches got hung up on that piece, and some judge held up a white paddle once, and so it went to protest, and I thought we put a stipulation in.
Chairman has to confirm it.
Yeah. So,
but
just
internationally, no. Internationally, all 3 of us need to confirm.
Right. So just, I want to tell everybody that, like, if you got a referee that calls it, probably a good mat chairman is going to bring everybody in and say, hey, let's talk. We're all good, right? And that's going to get everybody in agreement, because here's the thing. Coaches still have recourse. They can still throw a challenge on that. right? So again, we tell our judges like, hey, just confirm it because it's ultimately got to come down to the mat chairman anyway. But we've had some judges not listen to that, so just know nationally, it's the mat chairman who's going to make that decision, and then you have the right to challenge that as a coach. Okay? In parterre, unlike a foul and standing, we want confirmation, right? Because we don't want to blow our whistle and take somebody out of parterre until we're sure somebody's going to confirm that foul, right? Because there might be a lift happening, something that takes time to develop happening. We don't want to just blow our whistle and take that away until we're sure it's going to be confirmed. And even then, I don't want to take it away if it's, in the process of happening and it might lead to points. So